Hey guys, Michael Neff with Gears Golf here. Today I'm going to do a little video on how to make Gears clubs. We also have several videos coming out on user manual type of things for Gears and helps and quick help little videos that will kind of help you along. This isn't a very professional version of it, but I just wanted to get something out. We're going to do a little more professional version of this when the new build of Gears comes out later before the PGA show. Anyways, we'll just start with the driver here. And we've gone to great lengths to find, we actually make these little guys in-house. We worked really hard to find the right kind of adhesive that you can put on and won't come off while you're hitting, but can be removed without damaging the driver. But there's a couple of steps that you need to take in order to make sure that you don't damage either. So step one is you want to get some, like a little alcohol wipe, and you want to make sure that, that the driver itself is really clean, that there's no dirt or oil on it. You also want to make sure that it's very dry and warm. Room temperature is fine. What you don't want to have is if the driver's cold or if you're going to leave it overnight in a cold environment, that's not ideal. So we really want to get this clean. Kleenex is probably not the best way to to dry that alcohol, but that's kind of what I'm doing here. Okay, so with the driver, what you'll do is simply peel the back end of this off, okay, and you can position it really anywhere in the driver. Well, we kind of do one by the toe there, okay? And then if you wanted to do another one, so let's say, and then you put another one kind of like this guy. So you'll put one kind of toe, you could put one here, sometimes we put it down here, they can kind of be anywhere you want, but they can't be the same distance. The main thing is that they can't be the same distance from each other. So you'll see that that's longer than that. So as long as they're not exactly the same, it's not a perfect triangle, we're good. So, and these can come, this one I think is a little bit towards the toe. On toe shots with really fast driver speed, sometimes, the club goes through a pretty violent reaction to that. Sometimes these markers can fall off if it's not cured well. This one's been sitting long enough that Jamie Sidlowski could hit one out here on the toe and these babies aren't coming off. But I can still peel these off. As you can see, if I just put a little bit of pressure on that, that will come off. And then you can simply just peel this off and you'll see that the urethane doesn't get affected on the driver, and you would just alcohol wipe or do like goof off or something like that to get it off. Okay. Now, so let's say you have another driver, you have one of your players coming in, you want to mark up their driver, and so you have the base that doesn't have any adhesive on it. We sell these guys, right? These are these little special kind of 3M VHB things that we use, and you just peel this off. You'll put it on the back side of that, just like that. Peel that off, and then we'll put one like right there, and then I'll put one more down here. So you see, I'm just kind of very carefully pulling on this. That's how you can reuse these babies. We warranty these base stems for the life of the product. If they break or anything, we'll replace it for free. So I'll peel this off. And then you can kind of see here, I'm probably gonna put this one somewhere kind of like down here. Now, as you can see here, this distance is less than this distance or any one, so it's not a perfect triangle. So this is in good shape. Now, at room temperature, you don't want to pull these babies off until you've got these set down. So that's how it basically looks, how you build it. Now, if you have to use the driver right now, meaning if you have a player in there or you want to mark these up, you simply get a piece of this gaffer's tape. You can pick this up at Home Depot or kind of online, probably cheaper online. And I just kind of get a little strip about that big, like so, okay? And what I'll do here is I'll just kind of like, I don't know if you can see that or not, I'll just kind of push the stem right through that, okay? Just like I've done here. Okay, and then you just kind of really, you know, make sure it's on there. Now that doesn't look too good, and it adds a smidge of weight, but that baby's not coming off, even if right now, like even if it hasn't cured properly. So this is a really good way, and you would do that to all three of them. So that's a really good way to start off after you build it for the first time. Just put a little piece of tape over that. It can be electrical tape. We prefer you to use matte finish because we don't want any kind of shiny reflection happening, but you know, most any kind of tapes. And then you just simply put the ball over the top of that, and then it's ready to be calibrated. So this is a great way to mark up your drivers for, you know, if you want to mark something up right now and you don't have time for it to cure. If you wait a day or two, I would suggest 2, then you don't need this tape, and it will simply cure. As long as it's in room temperature, this will simply cure, and it's going to be as firm as this guy, and it's not coming off with a hit. It will come off if you pull on it, if you put enough pressure. But right now, if I hit one off the toe really violently, or if I hit one off the crown really violently, this one right here can pop off. The problem with that is that you have to recalibrate the club, and then you have to put that back. You have to put it back on, and you have to recalibrate the club. And if you've calibrated several different lofts in this head, so you could have like 10 different calibration files or files for just this one head, and if one of these markers falls off, then you got to redo everything, right? So I would highly suggest that if you give it enough time to cure. If you don't have enough time, then you got to use this tape, okay? So that's how you do the driver. When you've given this a couple of days, then you simply pull this part off, and then you can peel this off carefully. See that right there? You peel that carefully off, and then you're good to go. And then it looks beautiful. Okay? That's woods. You can do hybrids. You can do fairway woods. Again, the same thing. You put them on there. Just make sure they're not the equal distance. In gears, the image that you'll see in gears is a driver. But if you name the file hybrid or 3-wood or whatever, you'll still get the XYZ coordinate. Even though it's an image of a driver, you'll still be able to get all the data that you want out of a 3-wood or a hybrid. And pretty soon we're going to be coming out with, inside the software, we'll be able to show you different images. But for all intents and purposes, you're just going off the XY coordinates anyways. Okay, so that's an iron. This is kind of a new thing that that's a wood. So I'm going to take this head here, and we'll turn this down just a little bit so you can see that a little bit better. Okay, so the iron's a little bit different. The tricky part about the iron is there's usually not very many flat spots on the iron. There's not that many good places to put the markers, and these base stems can get pretty wide. So I don't have a lot of flat spots, and I certainly don't have, you know, room to do that. So what I have to do basically around the hosel, we've come up with these new smaller stems, okay? These are not currently on the website. Martin Chuck, you might kill me because you just bought some more of these. Doesn't matter, the old ones work fine, just the same. But this has a smaller base to it, and these screw on, they don't snap on. So they kind of just, the balls kind of screw on. It's a slightly smaller ball. And then basically what we do is, if you have an iron that doesn't have a very good flat spot, or in this case, we want to basically put these on the mark on the head so that it's most visible. Now, irons are trickier because if I put it back here or back here on the face, then as the club's coming through, if we're adding a lot of loft, or if you know, it's harder for the cameras to see those markers if they're kind of buried in the ground. So what we're trying to do is get the markers as visible as possible, and again, we just can't have them the same distance from each other. So what I simply do here is I'm going to wipe my iron down again, make sure that it's clean. Okay. And there's a smaller 3M circle for this. You just put it on the back, peel it off, and we'll put that right. I'm going to put it as high as I can on the toe. So you'll see here that basically I've got it as high as I can on the toe. So some irons are really narrow here. They get really narrow here, so you might need to move these down, but I don't want to get it down in here in case, I have some of these toe down guys. But that's a really good position for that, okay? The next one, I'm going to put in a slightly different place. Again, as long as you can put them anywhere you can put 3 anywhere you want, as long as it's not, as long as they're not equal distance from each other. So this one I'm actually going to put right here. Let's peel that off. So I'm going to put that right there. I found a little flat spot that way. So what's nice about this setup is that the cameras are really going to have an easy time seeing that particular marker. If I had it down here on the heel, if I'm really digging the heel, adding loft, that thing, not only will the marker hit the ground, and it could pull off that way. But fortunately, I have a flat spot here. Now, the same thing would work with the big stem markers, right? So if I wanted to put that there, I would simply just, put it in that same spot right on that flat spot, okay? And then here's the tricky part. The only way I'm going to get this hosel is round, okay, but the surface is flat here. These small markers are flat enough that you can put them, just right on the hosel here. You don't want to put them behind the hosel if you don't have to. Obviously, that would be ideal, so you just kind of put it right here. I personally don't like these small ones because I can't curve the base, and but it will work. So I could do something like this where I put the marker on like this, and I simply attach it like that, and you'll see here that I've got the marker. I have 3 markers, and none of them are the same distance from each other. Now, this marker right here is not, I don't have as much surface area on this marker as I do the other 2. So what I would probably do in this case is I would use one of the old markers, and I usually, this is kind of how I do it. I use one of the bigger markers. I basically take a pair of pliers like this, and a crescent wrench or another pair of pliers. Doesn't have to be exactly this way. And you'll see what I'm doing. I'm basically just kind of pinching either end of it, and I'm just going to curve the base slightly. This is metal, so it will bend. So you'll see that I'm basically just going to curve that just a little bit more, and I want it to basically sit as flush as possible with that. So I need to bend this just a little bit more. So notice I don't have to do this on woods. This is just one of the challenges of making sure that I get the irons just right. So once I have that kind of curve like that, then I can put one of the other markers on it. Careful when you put that down, that it sits flush inside of it. And then you attach it like that. So you'll notice here that one ball is big and the other 2 are smaller. That doesn't matter. The system is basically just looking for the center of that marker. Again, but these are going to be very visible to the cameras, and you'll notice that they're not down here. They're as high up as we can get them, and they're very visible. Now, it's not about if you have to use this iron like right now, and you really want to mark or somebody's iron up right now, This does not have enough time as it is right now to endure probably a lot of vibration. So what you can do is, again, our trick with the gaffer's tape, and just kind of take the ball off, wrap it with a little tape, and you can do that however you need to, just to make sure that they're kind of secure. And then after a day or two, go ahead and pull the balls off, pull the tape off, and you go through that. There's one other option with an iron, which this is a permanent option. This is where you actually drill a hole into the head, and we use like a thread, and we use epoxy, and basically you'll see that this is a this is just a screw like that. You'll see that. And then the other side of this basically comes off, I think, or not, and it's on there. So the ball will just screw onto this stuff, and I would highly recommend that you, unless you have some machining skills, you're really good with a drill, I wouldn't do this. And if you really want us to do this, we'll do it for you. So you basically just drill a hole in the head like that. You need kind of a unique drill press. You need to be able to do like a little countersink first, and then you drill down to be able to drill a hole on a curved surface. And then you epoxy it down in there. After a little time, then you just screw the ball on there. And you'll notice that this one is kind of off the head here, right? So it's a little bit lower than I would like, but we just have no surface area here to on this blade to get, to get this ball on here. So this is probably a good way to do on this one. That way the marker gets away from the club. It's easier for the cameras to see it. So let's say I want to reuse these. We sell these, I think there's like, they're 25 cents each for these things, for the adhesive. And then you can always get more markers. And again, doesn't matter the size. But we would, I would strongly recommend that you start using the small base markers on the irons and get them as high as we can, because there's just not a lot of surface area. And then you can reuse these if you want, but just you need to give them a little time to cure. Again, 2 days from right now, these babies aren't going to come off, no matter how violent the toe is, and then you'll still be able to peel them off without hurting the driver. Last piece is the shaft clip. Okay. So the shaft clip comes in two sizes. You'll see that there's a large and a small. And they can go on, you'll see that one side is a little bit wider than the other, so the wider one goes on top. And you'll see that kind of inside of here, there's this little piece of tape, and that's actually not tape, it's moleskin. It's double-sided tape, so it's adhesive on the back, and it's moleskin. And what that does is you put it down there, and once you clip it on the shaft like this, I don't know if you can see this here. You clip it on the shaft like that, and that is not going to come off. It's not going to come off during a swing. And if I want to reuse it, I can, but I carefully kind of pry it off. Okay, carefully do that, so you don't get too violent on that. But once that clips on there, that moleskin underneath it keeps it from moving. So that's not going anywhere. It also doesn't matter what orientation this is in, but it does matter. What we don't want you to do is put it too far down the shaft, because then as the shaft gets too narrow, then this thing will start to move around. A dynamic gold is probably the number one reason we had to make the small clip, because it's so narrow at this point of the club. So basically on dynamic gold and some other wedge shafts, you have to use the small thing, and I also think that's going to be the same for putting. The putter is going to use this as well. And then for the other shafts, here's basically an old burner shaft. I can just use the large clip, pops on there like that. So let's say I want to calibrate this club, or I want to calibrate it 2 degrees upright and 2 degrees flat. Okay. Obviously this is going to be right side up when it's 2 degrees up, or 2 degrees flat, or whatever it is. And then when I turn it, calibrate it there, these are going to be facing down. Doesn't matter. Okay. This is the one thing, is that this can't move. So if you take this off or if you remove any of the markers from the club is then out of calibration, okay? You need to recalibrate it. But as long as you do this right and you take your time and you have a little detail with it, these are not going to come off and they're going to track great. That's about it for now. What I'm going to do now is we're going to do another video on how to calibrate these clubs in Gears. So signing off here. Go Gears. Hey guys, Michael Neff here with Gears Golf. We're going to do a little video today on how to make or how to calibrate a golf club inside of Gears. We just shot a video on how to make the golf club, and this one is already made. You'll see here that there's 3 markers on the head, and then the shaft clip is on. And now what we need to do is calibrate this club. So the system needs to know, all the parameters of what's going on. So here we go. So there's in your Gears pack, you got basically two different things that look like this. One's long, one's short. The long one is designed to go close to the end of the club or the shaft up here, just below the shaft clip. So you'll see that this is a product we actually make in-house. We machine these from scratch. Basically, and then these things will twist out. So you want to make sure that they're twisted all the way in, okay? Basically, these are magnetic and there's little posts so that they won't move. And you basically put it, just right below the shaft clip, just like that. And this one comes in, you'll see it's shorter and it has little bumpers in the inside of it. And those are designed for a more, more tapered portion of the golf club. And those just kind of snap on like that. So some shafts have different diameters. You can see that so some get pretty narrow at the bottom. So you might need to slide these up a little bit. What you want to do is just make sure that it's snug in there and that it's closed all the way. And then you also want to make sure that these do not tilt in this manner. You don't want it tilting left or right or side to side. Make sure that it's flush against that. Now orientation of these things can kind of be whatever you want. I would kind of put them a little bit opposite of each other just in case, but that's fine. Okay, now we need to put a marker on the end of the shaft. So this is how we know how long the golf club is, and this is how we know where the center of the shaft is. So make sure that you put the stem of the ball directly over the center of the grip there. Okay. Now this double-sided tape doesn't stick to rubber the way it does metal as well. So you'll probably have to use just any kind of double-sided tape that you get, that you use for grips or any kind of double-sided tape or anything just to keep it on. You want to also make sure that that stem is right down the middle, okay? Now, here's the, well, they're all important, but I'm going to bring this kind of in a little bit so you can see this a little closer here. I'm going to tilt this down just a smidge. Okay, now, this little guy is the head jig. And you'll see that there's crosshairs in the middle. You might not be able to see that, but there's crosshairs in the middle of that, okay? And for a right-handed golfer, and you'll also see that on one side we have little stems for the rubber band, and then the other side, these are bumpers, okay? And we know the exact width of that, and that's accommodated into making the golf club. So those little bumpers are on there to help center this jig. We call it a jig. Now, with a driver or with a right-handed club, the long stem, there's 3 different angles. One's longer than the other 2, okay? The long stem always needs to be going up in this manner, okay? So currently right now, if I put the jig on this thing, when I put this up, you can see when I put this up, this stem is actually going back towards the heel. So I need to basically unscrew, this is how you would do a left-handed club. So I'm going to unscrew it, put it in the other side, and make sure that it's nice and firm, okay? And I'm going to basically put this on this head right here. I'm going to see if I can get that a little closer for you to see. How's that? That looks a little bit better. So basically what I want to do is I want to center this on the face. Now, because of bulge and roll, this face is not flat, okay? So that's why we use a rubber band. We want to make sure that, see, like right now, if I just kind of just let it sit there, it won't stay, it'll tilt, okay? So I need a rubber band to make sure that it's not leaning one way or leaning the other way or adding loft one way or de-lofting it the other way. Because this is how we know where the center of the face is. This is the magic of gears, right? This is how we know how much loft the club has statically, what the lie angle is statically, all that kind of good stuff. So here is somewhere my rubber band, okay? And I'm going to basically put it over one like that, and I'm going to wrap it around the bottom of the head, okay? And what that does, it basically keeps the driver head snug, or the jig snug to the driver, okay? Then what you need to do, ideally you would take the driver off and balance it on a pen or something in a vise so you'd know exactly where the CG is. So in this case, there's a little marker on the middle of this Cobra driver which shows me where that is. Now what's really important here, I'm going to take this out slightly so you can see it better. I think it'd be better if we look at that. Take this out for a second. Okay, so here's the challenge. If you put this baby on crooked like that, okay, it'll show that that's where the center is. And when you see the graphic on gears or face mapping, that's where the center is going to be. But the lie angle is going to be way off, okay? And if I have it tilted this way or tilted that way, okay, all my metrics are going to be off. So I want to make sure that that's very flat, and I want to make sure that that this leading edge, so what usually we do, we've been instructed by Cobra to do this for Cobra, is to basically line up the crosshair right over the center mark and also make sure that it goes right over the score lines, okay? Now sometimes I have to pull the rubber band a little bit to make sure that it's flush. This is a very important step, extremely important. If you want to make sure you know where that center is, because that's what you're doing now is you're telling the system where the center of the face is. So obviously we know where the center of the markers are to within 0.2 millimeters, which is the thickness of a piece of paper. And that's why we're able to give you such accurate measurements. But if you don't do this step properly, you could get some interesting data, and it's something that you need to be very careful with, okay? So that face, the lie angle, I've got this stem going straight out right across that score line, and I've got the right in the middle of the cross right in the middle of that hash mark in the middle of the driver there. Okay, so that baby's good to go. Okay, what you want to do is basically put it in the middle of the volume like so. Here, so I'll kind of help you out here. So if you kind of look at how I've kind of done this here, I'm putting the tripod right in the middle of the room, and I'm facing the tripod down the line, or the club I'm facing down the line, okay? One of the challenges that you may run into is if you have the club pointed down like this or pointed straight down like that, the cameras may have a hard time seeing that. So I would suggest kind of getting the clubs kind of pointed straight up and down like that, or the club pointed straight up and down like that. So it's really easy for the camera to see all these markers here. So you should be able to kind of see that's what we're after right there. Okay? Now, come on over here to gears. Let's put this back up. Okay, now, one of the things that you see here in gears, it looks like it's calibrated already, okay? But all that is it's recognizing that it's a club, but this club is not calibrated yet. What we have to do to calibrate it is we have to go to Manage Clubs. So we go up here to this icon right here, go to Manage Clubs, okay? And this club had previously been calibrated in this room. So I'm actually gonna go in and hit delete. I wanna delete it. Okay, so any clubs that you've calibrated that are no longer calibrated, you want to get rid of them. Just don't even allow yourself that chance to select a club, because when you calibrate this file, that golf club has to be the one that you select, or else your data is going to be wrong. So make sure that you get the right club. So now I'm going to do a new club. There's an option for a driver here. I can pick the manufacturer. In this case, it's a Cobra driver. I'm going to go in and I'm going to type Fly Z Plus. And I can put in all sorts of like metrics there. This helps me know which club I am using. So if you're going to calibrate this golf club to be 9.5 loft, 10.5 loft, 8.5 loft, you need to make sure that you name it correctly so you don't forget, and that you make sure that you get the right file. And that can make the difference, the whole difference in the world. Because when you rescale that loft, or when you change the loft on the driver, now it's a totally different club, and the markers are in different places, and you got to make sure that you do this. So this is in the 9-degree setting, and I'm going to put down, this is a regular flex. So this 9-degree setting, regular flex, I know that's this club. In my setup, I have a bunch of different clubs, but this is what's going to show up underneath the name when you're selecting golf clubs. So then you can kind of choose a 3D model. So you can choose our model. So it's the avatar of the club. So this is gears. You can pick gears, but I'm going to pick Cobra BioCell Orange. That's basically what this looks like. I'm going to change the loft here to 9.5. This driver has 12 degrees of bulge and roll, very important. And the lie angle on this. So the lie on this driver is 61. Now, this is just for my information only, okay? The system will actually tell me what the actual loft and lie are. This is mostly for my own record keeping. But when you hit a shot, it'll actually give you the stock, the actual loft and lie of the club. Then I'll just come down here and I can name the shaft. I'll just put Cobra Reg Stock. That's a regular flex. Again, these are, you can put in the shaft weight. You can put it's a mid kick. This one is 65 grams. I can change the swing weight. I can go in and change the head weight. I can change all these things, but it defaults to these certain things. I also have the ability to make it either a male or a female, and there's different settings for women's clubs versus men's clubs. And then also very important is that you select the right-handedness. Okay, so when you select gears, or when you select the player, you get to tell the system whether they're right-handed or left-handed. Once it does that, then it'll take you down the left-handed club line. This is a right-handed club. So once I kind of have all this done, I'm going to click this button where it says Add Club. Okay, and you'll see that the avatar shows up, and that this is the highlighted, and then it's highlighted. There's a little check mark right there. Okay. That means it's going to be also found in my little drop-down menu right there, okay? So if I wanted to have this driver, though, be on the drop-down menu too, I would just click that. And then I would come up here and I'd see both the Reflex and the Fly Z here. You can do 2 at a time. Okay, now, before I close this out, one of the things I want to do is kind of like make sure that everything's good here. So I'll actually go and I'll kind of bounce the driver. This is kind of one of the cool things about what we're doing here. So I'll just go and I'll kind of just tap it like this, and I just want to barely touch it, and I want to make sure that it's tracking here. So you guys can't see me doing this, but I'm just barely touching that, and as you can see, it's actually moving. It's doing exactly in 3D, what I'm asking it to do in 2D. So if you have a club that shows up, really short, or if you have a shaft that's like really skinny, or if it's just not really moving that well, chances are is that you didn't have the calibration jig on correctly, or the shaft stems were too close to the head marker, or lots of different scenarios. So if that does happen, okay, if you kind of follow my steps, it shouldn't happen, but if it does, sometimes you might need to just kind of twist these or move these away from, away from this head, or turn the marker. Maybe you're trying to scale it when it's sitting upside down like this, and you might need to move it like this. Usually when it has a hard time capturing, it's because the cameras can't see the markers. So that's the number one rule. As long as you keep those markers in view of the camera, we're going to have really good results. Okay? So that club is now calibrated. If I wanted to make a different loft of this driver now, okay? So let's say I wanted to make a different loft. Okay? I would simply take the head off. Okay, I'm gonna leave this all together, but I'm just gonna unscrew the head, change the loft, put it back in, screw it down, put it back. Okay, clamp it down. And I'm gonna double check to make sure that this hasn't moved, okay? I still need to have this baby centered out, okay? I'm always checking that. I really wanna make sure that's detailed. That's the key. That's the secret to gears, We know where the face is, we know where the center of the face is, and we know where the ball is. That's how we're able to get such accurate touch data. And then I simply just go back and I create that club, just like I did the 9.5 version, but I create it as a 8.5 now, or whatever we put that loft at. So anyways, that's a little brief overview of how to calibrate your golf clubs and gears. And obviously, feel free to contact us at any time if you have any questions, or if things aren't working the way that you want them to. We'll certainly get online and help you out. Thanks a lot. Go Gears.